So, Joe, let's talk retail media.
Yeah.
The evolution of retail media. It's happening quickly.
Yep.
Amazon is obviously the behemoth in the space.
Yep.
We just actually saw a cool graph. What was it? Like 75%?
Of all retail media spend.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like 3/4 of the pie. Yep. And then it was Walmart around like 6 or 7%. And then every other retailer, if I remember right, around like 15%.
Yeah.
But it was like this is
I mean,
everybody else in the space.
that's like 100 other retail media networks that are fighting for a very small sliver of the pie.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's a really interesting piece in the whole retail media space as a whole. And it all comes down to traffic and investment of time and resources. So Amazon obviously dominates in terms of traffic, and they were the pioneer in the space. Walmart is continually making inroads, but it's just in terms of budget split, we're looking at like a 90% to 90-10 between Amazon and Walmart. And then I think that the key things that a lot of brands struggle with is now for these other markets, you can get into them and the competition's a lot lower, which is awesome. On the downside, traffic's obviously a lot lower.
The volume isn't there.
The volume isn't there. And then a lot of the features aren't there too. And so that's been a key thing. Like as we get different brands on some of these other retail channels, like it's great to establish yourself early. What I think you have to do is really focus on those channels that are going to see that future growth because you've got that investment while budgets may be small. It's another time piece that goes into it.
Well, it's also, there's 100+ retail media networks now. Like, how do you determine which RMNs to invest in?
Yep.
I think I've read a stat today that was the average brand will invest in 6 retail media networks for annually. But like they all are different. They do the same thing, but they all have a different platform, a different way to access it, different categories and niche, and different measurement. I think that's the biggest hurdle in the industry is that all of these are fragmented and have different measurements. And then how do you stack them up against each other?
Yeah. And that's another key thing. It's as we continue to divvy up budgets between these different channels, they're all different walled gardens. And so now how do you measure your cross-channel attribution? It gets really tricky. And so that's one of the reasons why we've built out our streamlined platform is to be able to tie in together a lot of these channels, because as a brand, just trying to manage a single channel and learn that, it's super difficult. And so with their streamlined platform, what we've tried to do is, all right, you come to us and we can divvy up that budget for you. And we're getting experience in all these other retail channels. And so we can take those learnings from Amazon, from Walmart, apply them to these other emerging channels where, again, competition is a lot lower. It's just a struggle if you're trying to do it internally. And then just trying to navigate the retail media space as a whole and how you even get access to some of these platforms, super challenging. Like you've dug into that quite a bit and just trying to figure out like, all right, if I want to advertise at Costco, like how do I actually do that? It seems like it should be easy.
But it's not.
Yeah.
They all keep their carts close to their chests.
Yeah. And for some of these smaller retailers, like it's a big struggle too. Like how do you stay competitive and how do you try to drive up advertising revenue when you don't have the traffic and you don't have the in-house capabilities to build out your own app platform?
And then how do you know too how to allocate your budget? You have a finite amount budgeted for advertising in the year and you have how many retailers and how do you divvy that up? Where does it make sense?
Yep.
I think that's where it's really important that you find the right experts that can help you with that decision making and then also help with educating measurement. And like all these different platforms have like different measurements and gauging success. And so I think having one team that can help you align KPIs with objective, not with the platform,
Sure.
I feel like that will help alleviate some of those issues.
Yeah. And what I expect too for a lot of these other retailers outside of like Amazon and Walmart is it's very fragmented right now. And so they're going to have to start, there's going to have to be this congregation of the other retail channels into some sort of like standardized measurement and optimization platform. And so this is where like Criteos come into play, where they're bringing a lot of retailers in. They're saying, okay, we're building out some of this infrastructure here to be able to run and measure your ads. And they're signing on more and more retailers. If you're outside of one of those standard platforms, it's a whole nother channel to learn. And so you got to find somebody probably like us to help you navigate that, just because trying to learn all these platforms individually as a brand is going to be super difficult. And so tons of fragmentation right now. I expect it's going to keep getting more. There's going to be a standard system or channel that more and more retailers are going to go to, because you're going to get those network effects that pick up over time.
Yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit about retail media ads and what they look like? Because I think that's evolving. I read an article today actually about how brands and advertisers are moving more of their budget to offsite retail media.
Sure.
And that's growing. And the funny thing I think about that, though, is, I mean, Amazon's been doing that for years. But now other retail media networks like Walmart and others that are creating their own DSPs are seeing the value of that. So I think we'll be seeing more offsite ads, but really like the kind of bread and butter of retail media since the beginning has been in-store ads. So I mean, that's been around for decades. Used to, just be like placards or, paper displays in the grocery store or Target. And now they're becoming really high tech. You have like beacons that track your GPS in Best Buy. If your app is open, it will show you a certain ad.
Sure.
Now it's becoming very sophisticated. So people will see those type of retail media ads while they're shopping around. But I think what everybody's really familiar with is on-site ads, which of course is Amazon, Walmart.com, on those retailer sites. So it'll be interesting to see how that evolves. I think there will definitely continue to be more push to offsite and more innovation in store.
Yeah. If we look at Amazon, who is the leader in the space, so if you want to point to retail media, you can first start with sponsored ads in the digital realm. And so Amazon has had a ton of innovation on how do we put more ads in this space without distracting from the customer experience. And we're reaching a point of saturation there. And so there's been a lot of cool new formats. And so, you start with sponsored products, but now sponsor brand video, display options. There's a ton of different options, and they've done a great job in making the ads fit into the environment very naturally.
Yeah.
Yep. A lot of people I talk to, when they ask what I do, still don't realize that there's even ads on Amazon. So they've done an awesome job fitting that in. And it appears that it's not negatively impacting the customer experience. If they try to fit more ads in, it definitely could. And so
it's a fine balance for sure.
Yep.
Of like, and we did a post recently about sharing different retailers and like the percentage of organic to sponsored. And Amazon had the most. But also I feel like when you look at Amazon.com, you don't really notice it. They do a very good job of that for sure.
Yeah. And so where I see the space going now is, how do you utilize that retail media offsite? So outside of like the typical sponsored ads that you've seen. And this is where we've seen some major shifts in the industry. So if we take a step back, one major shift has just been the focus on data privacy and what can and can't track you. And so with cookies, not going away, but definitely like getting pushed out. Yep. And so they'll still continue in like Chrome, but Safari, they're going away. Firefox, they're going away, or have gone away. So apps can't track you across your phone too. And so targeting's gotten a lot harder from the third party perspective. So everybody's been moving to who has the first party data, and it's these retailers. So I can look on Facebook and I can see what I'm interested in when I'm scrolling around. I can go to Google and I can see what I'm searching for, which is closer to the purchase. But if I go to Amazon or I go to Walmart data, I mean, that's what I'm actually purchasing. And so that's going to be such a better picture on my consumer profile and what I'm potentially interested in. And so these retailers have this huge advantage there to really leverage their first party data. And now it's not just on the site, but what are other areas that we can show the ads? And so offsite targeting has become really big. And so whether it's through third party networks throughout the web, or whether it's within their existing ecosystem. Like Amazon is investing a ton into its content and its live sports. Um, they're putting so much money into this because it opens up more ad space and it gets people more locked into the Prime ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, they've really kind of built a kingdom of content over the past few years.
Yeah.
And it's not just, through Amazon Prime where you see like these big shows with big names, but it's also the streaming sports that they've really been leaning into. NBA is going to be next 11 years, starting in 2025. Certain games, not all of them. Obviously, we have Thursday night football. We have some WNBA games. We have some NASCAR races, some big NASCAR races. I know we have some soccer leagues. So, I mean, they're really leaning into content like the entertainment side of things and the sports side of things. And also this election, they leaned into live news coverage for the first time. So that's the first time they've tried to do that. I can't imagine they're actually going to create a news network, but they did live news coverage for the first time. So they're definitely leaning into that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And what gets fun with that for a company like Amazon is now you can tie together their e-commerce side with their content side. And so what's really exciting is now for video ads, they've typically been in an upper funnel brand awareness play. Now with interactive video ads, I can be watching my Fire TV or just on the Prime Video app, and an ad comes up for a product that I'm interested in because now we can layer on targeting options for the different audiences and customize the ads that are shown. And then from there, I can click a button to purchase a product or get more information on that. So even for like insurance ads, you can now click the button and you'll get an email on more information about insurance. And so it's not even physical products here, but what you can do is now video is not just this one size fits all solution. You can customize your video creative to really speak to a certain audience and then show the video to that audience. So it's immediately going to resonate more. And now you can immediately go further down the funnel with clicking the button and then either adding it to your cart where my phone's going to vibrate because now Amazon's got it in the cart and I just had to check out. Or I'll get an email with more information or more about their promotion or whatever else it is.
Well, I think you touched on something that's good to circle back on, like an insurance company. Like when people think retail media, they often associate it with a brand that sells with that retailer.
Sure.
But a lot of these retailers are opening up space to what they call non-endemic brands. So these are people that don't sell, brands and advertisers that don't sell on that retailer, who can access that inventory and that first party data, which is really what they're looking for, to really hit a relevant audience that they want to target.
Yeah.
Like insurance companies, financial institutions, hospitality groups, services that you don't usually associate with Amazon.com or Walmart.com.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so it's really fun to look at like the different targeting options that you have from this first party data. But then just the expansion of people who are actually watching these programs too. And then you layer in some of the interactivity that you can have along with the measurement too, which is another really cool piece. For a lot of these big brands who are doing video ads, it's really tough to tie back what impact did this ad truly have. And there's still going to be a lot of challenges there. But now with this next step where I can request more information, all right, that's an easy indication like, hey, this ad resonated, or hey, this led to this many lead forms that were filled out, or this many add to carts that even if they didn't purchase at the time, now they can go into my retargeting pool and I can show more ads to push them across the finish line for the purchase. And so there's a lot of really cool things that you can do with the whole integrated ad ecosystem with something like Amazon, to not only reach these unique customers You have the interactivity, it kind of pushes down the funnel, but then the measurement aspect too. So if I'm a CMO in one of these big organizations and I had to justify where I'm allocating my ad spend, if I can push further down the funnel and the measurement and the actual impact that these ads had, from there, it's going to allow me to ask for more budget or be able to justify this spend. One of these big challenges we have in the marketing side is what is the true impact of these ads, especially as you go further up the funnel.
Well, and those retail media networks like Amazon are so like how they were built was close to point to purchase, so that they're really used to the conversion measurements, like really tracking that data to a set sale. And now that they're moving offsite and moving up funnel, they're good at still tracking that data, which is what really everybody wants at this point in time.
Yeah. And that's another major industry shift that we're seeing is the convergence of brand and performance marketing. And so if you're currently in an organization right now that has two separate areas for brand and performance marketing, I think over time you're going to see these start to get combined together. And the key reason is that we're starting to see the funnel squish down, and where like the typical brand development play, say like a video ad during a large scale, like a football game. Um, there's going to be performance marketing aspects to that. And the more performance marketing type metrics you can bring to some of these higher funnel plays, I think the more expectations that management is going to have over time for this, just with the more tracking we can do. But as a typical brand marketer, that also gives me more ammunition on, hey, here's the actual impact that these ads are having. And so I think we're continually seeing this squish together now of brand and performance marketing, where it doesn't neatly fit into one side or the other side now. And we're seeing some companies respond faster than others, but I think all are starting to feel this where it's not one in these unique buckets anymore.
No, and I think we've been hearing that for, several years, the collapse of the funnel, and how it's not awareness, consideration, conversion. It's not that clear trip down the funnel anymore. It's more like a roadmap with different destinations that people stop along. And so it's not awareness to performance. I will be curious to know like what that blending will look like, what they're going to call that. And we know we'll get a new name for that kind of marketing.
Yeah, performance brand marketing.
Another buzzword to add to the dictionary.
Yeah.